I'm Dr. Leah Andrews, and this is my sidekick, Oben. And welcome to Tea with Dr. Leah. Today, we are continuing our series of self-diagnosis, and you'll find this on my website, leahandrews.com. And today, we're going to talk about wood, the wood personality type, and how to address the gifts and the challenges of the wood personality type. And with wood, there's a lot of gifts. So it's really important to be aware of those so we can optimize and make the most out of who we are. So the wood face is very rectangular. So you'll see this kind of energy coming up, if it's a healthy wood person, all the way from the bottoms of the feet, up the body, focusing on these broad shoulders that kind of stop sometimes a little bit in the shoulder area, and then coming right up into the eyes. Wood is very intense. It looks directly. It is very focused. Wood is goal-oriented. So wood loves motivation, loves to go beyond and really push forward and push the boundaries. You'll find wood in entrepreneurs. You'll find in police, criminal attorneys, and in criminals too. It's people who really push the boundaries, tend to be more aggressive, more competitive. A lot of professional athletes have a lot of wood element. Wood not only is driven, but they also have the ability, their physical bodies have the stamina. They tend to have really good health. Typically as children even, their biggest health concerns are falls and trauma due to overdoing things, and that continues into adulthood. So basically, they're charging forward, and they hit walls, and literally sometimes, and that's when the health issues kind of come up. Typically, wood people will take advantage of their very good, strong constitutions, and they will overdo it. And you'll see typically wood people with things like adrenal exhaustion, when they've overworked, overplayed their whole lives, and all of a sudden, bam, it's like they finally used up those strong reserves that they had. So wood people are, they tend to push it until the end. And so unfortunately, when wood people do have problems, they tend to be serious because they don't complain, they push through pain, they keep going until things are really broken. They don't typically pay attention along the way. Some wood people, if they're healthier, they will take better care of themselves. You do see a lot of health conscious wood people who stick with diets and those types of things, but they also tend to be heartier diets, even if they're vegetarian. A lot of paleo folks are wood. A lot of also the very kind of diehard proponents of vegetarianism are wood. They're always right either way. I forgot the tea. The tea for today, of course, is for wood is some black coffee. That is the tea of choice for wood people. No frills, no fluffy whipped cream or any of that stuff. It's just straight black coffee, straight espresso. And that's what gives them their energy and their drive. You'll notice also on the wood face physically, a lot of energy right here. So you'll see I kind of maybe overdid it a little bit. I was trying to emphasize my brows, and you tend to see a lot of what my mentor, Patricia McCarthy, calls the coach's eyebrows, which is there's not a lot of space between the brows and the eyes. So the opposite of aloof, they're very much in the action, in the arena, and just kind of get in there with people. If they have students or people that they're mentoring, they're in the trenches with those people. There's not a lot of separation. And so when you see those kind of coach's eyebrows, that's the kind of personality traits you're going to see kind of come through. There's a lot of intensity in the eyes, a lot of directness, unless wood is very unhealthy. Wood people do tend to have liver gallbladder issues, which are the paired organs for the wood element. A lot of that comes from that excessively rich diet as well. Doesn't always suit Doesn't always help support the liver gallbladder system. They also tend to enjoy really kind of adventurous. They're probably the most adventurous people when it comes to everything in life, but also with food. So they tend to really like to go out there and have like the most extreme. They're the ones who are going to be going to Japan and having that. I'm forgetting the name now of that fish that it can kill you if it has too much of the toxins in it. But you right on the edge, you'll get like a high off of things like that. Wood people will do those types of things. They'll go out and brew, some crazy beer with some ancient hallucinogen in there, and like they want that extreme flavor, the extreme experience of their food. Wood people are strong. They tend to be the explorers. They're also a bit self-referential, and they're not always the most compassionate. And the reason is, I think, because compassion, in my life at least, has arisen from hitting a wall, hitting a hardship, and through that pain, relating, empathizing with other people's pain. Wood people, because they tend to just, shake it off, keep going. It's hard for wood people to understand people who can't just shake it off. They tend to not have a lot of compassion or empathy for victims because, you shouldn't be a victim. You should fight back. You should find a way. Not always, but the more unbalanced wood people can be like that. More balanced wood people who have evolved more and worked on themselves are going to have a tremendous ability for compassion, where they will be protective of their families and their loved ones and anyone that they consider in their tribe. They're not necessarily going to ever be nice to people who are outside of their tribe. They tend to be warriors and fighters and competitors. So they're not necessarily going to be too nice to their competitors and enemies. But if you're in their group, they can, as they're more balanced and more evolved, develop that compassion and that need to protect and understand that there is vulnerability in others, even though they don't always experience it in themselves, or probably more accurately, don't recognize or accept that aspect of themselves. And this really relates to what the liver and gallbladder do in our bodies as well. Because going back to all of this stuff is not airy-fairy. When we're talking about these elements, we're talking about energy patterns in the body that are predominant at different levels in different people. So wood people have stronger liver gallbladder energy in their body, and that's why their personality has a greater influence of that liver gallbladder energy. So the liver is the general of the body. It is what, when we have any kind of assault from the outside world, so whether it be emotional stress, that fight or flight response, interpersonal aggression, which is the biggest danger historically throughout human history, has been other people, causing issues. That will trigger that liver energy to kind of come up and protect and fight back. Also, if there's toxins in the environment, the liver is what's going to filter those out. So on every level, the liver energy is what kind of comes up as that first defense, that first response to the environment. So people who have a lot of that energy are going to be wired more that way, to be ready to respond, to go out, to push limits, to protect boundaries. Would people be careful of infringing on their boundaries because they are very conscious of their own boundaries. Not necessarily the boundaries of others, but they're conscious of their own boundaries. So that is something that definitely comes from that link with the liver gallbladder organ system. The other thing too that I find really fascinating about wood people is that they are the only people that I know that can go to these motivational seminars and it works for them long term. Most people, they go to Tony Robbins, they go to these different places and they get all hyped up, they walk on the coals, they break the board, and they're like high for a week, and then their old patterns start coming back. And it's, they have to go to another seminar, or they're just back into their old pattern. Wood people, they tend to be motivational speakers, and they tend to benefit the most from motivational speakers because they are able to power through and put on their blinders and just go. And if they've been abused as children, they just kind of like goes in the back burner. I'm going to go forward anyway. I'm going to make a beeline for what I want in my life. And so they're able to really do that, and they're really able to put into practice what motivational speakers tend to say, which is, oh, focus on the positive. You got to go here. You got to always keep your energy up. You got to keep going. Would people have the energy to sustain that? And they have the energy and the ability to shut off what doesn't serve them, for good and for bad, in a way that other elements can't. And I think that's also part of the lack of empathy sometimes with wood people. They don't understand why other people can't just willpower their way through obstacles. Not everybody has that gift, and wood people do. So if you're wondering why the positive thinking and all of those things works for some people, it's because it tends to be wood people, because they're able to put on their blinders. Wood people are very good survivors. You can put them in most situations and they will find a way, because they definitely know about self-preservation. It's a natural instinct for them. And they know how to shut out what doesn't serve them and just live and survive and find a way. And that also explains why those tactics of motivational speaking and using your will and using your mind power to overcome obstacles doesn't work for other people. Other people actually have to go in and do the work and clear up their patterns so that they can move forward. So it's a different. There you can see how there's a good and bad that comes from it, because when you do have to work on your patterns, it does make you more empathetic. It does make you, brings out that compassion in people. It helps develop that aspect. And that also buffers wood people from having to sometimes go in and do the inner work. Unless they have really big goals that makes them do the inner work, they can power through a normal life without having to face a lot of things because they're strong enough. Besides this kind of issue with compassion, the biggest issue for wood people is anger. Anger is they naturally have more anger energy. They tend to respond to the frustrations in life and the obstacles in life. If something impinges on their growth forward, they're going to get angry. And so even as little kids, and it's really important to teach wood children, especially all children, but especially wood children, how to express that anger in a positive way, and specifically find a way to change that anger into a passion that you can take a positive action on. That is really the secret for a good, happy life for a wood person, is turning their anger into passion so that it is a benefit to themselves and others. So wood people, they tend to be one of two types. Either they're, if they're imbalanced, so they're going to be the ones that are just angry, yelling. They always seem like on the edge of rage, and everybody knows those people. Wood people are great to start off doing face reading because you can always spot them. So, because they're in your face. So if someone is, always on that verge of rage, that verge of anger, you're probably looking at a wood person. The opposite too is true. People who are like, I never get angry. I'm never upset. That's probably also a wood person who has found a way, probably through the family conditioning, where it wasn't acceptable to be angry, to just shut that off. It's, and they keep it bottled inside. It then turns into depression. It can turn into physical disease. And so neither one of those ways, those outlets of anger, is healthy. What you want is take that wonderful extra energy that you're born with, and you want to direct it into something positive. So for example, if you feel really angry about, you are on a hike and you see pollution around, you see bags around or whatever, that can be the stimulus for you to become a great activist for the environment, or for whatever other injustice that you kind of come across in your on a smaller scale, in your work life, in your family life, in your neighborhood, or on a global scale. When you feel that anger about whatever is going on, you can turn that into activism, into doing something positive for the world. So you're taking all of that extra energy, all of that natural power and expansion energy that you're born with, and you're actually doing something good for the planet. And I think that's really, it's what this work is all about, is finding, not judging yourself, it's finding those parts of yourself that aren't necessarily working with you and turning them into a gift. And we all have that ability. In terms of clothes, wood is functional. So you'll see even in an office setting, wood people are, their clothes is functional. It's going to be something that is easy to move in. It is probably going to have a good label. For wood, it's very important to have a certain appearance. And they know that for example, in a corporate setting, it's important to have certain labels, like having a certain, high-end shoes, high-end handbag, high-end watch, things like that are very important, a nice suit. But they also are still functional. They look like they could get out after work and maybe get on their bike. There's something about them. Wood women with their hair, it's always kind of functional. It's out of their face. It looks like they could go out and do some active thing outdoors, because wood loves to be outdoors. It loves to be active. Wood people naturally are great sportsmen. And so that's something that it's like their lives are kind of created around kind of getting out there, doing some kind of activity, or getting out into the world, getting out into the wilderness and doing something. In terms of love, wood loves to pursue and be pursued. So a lot of the kind of the old dating games, that's a very wood kind of game. And both wood men and wood women like to play those kind of games, that kind of competition. It leaks over into the love arena as well. So that is definitely a big part. Wood people like to be in control or fight for that control. Wood women, they tend to really like men who can be more dominant than they are. I've noticed that with a lot of wood women. It's not always the case though. Some wood women do like to be in control, but control is always control, anger, passion. These are themes that run through wood people's lives. That's all we have for today. Please let me know if you are enjoying these videos, if you want to have particular questions or themes that you want me to discuss. I'd be happy to include them. Have a beautiful day. Oh, for the wood meditation, just get out there and do it. Just go. There's no time for meditating. You just have to go and jump off that cliff. Have a good day.